Darren. There are a number of measures, and I point out the 10 million we're allocating through the Community Safety Fund to all London boroughs to address their particular priorities. And of course, there's a 2.1 million that we're allocating through the GLA for the Guns, Gangs and Knives initiative, and then of course the range of schemes that we ourselves are championing and in some cases leading around mentoring, apprenticeships, encouraging people to join youth groups. There is a huge range of things that we are doing. Obviously, when individual councils decide to shut this or that service or close this or that facility, the difficulty I have is that I cannot preempt or second guess those decisions, and sometimes it's like we can lobby and we can make representations, and that is certainly what we would do, but we can't always prevent them from doing so.
Thanks. I understand that. And in terms of the actual policing budgets and the government's cuts and the importance of police numbers, you've made some very welcome comments on those in actually challenging the logic of what the government's doing in terms of reducing police budgets. I think that's very welcome that you've come to that position. But in terms of the other budget pressures that local authorities are under for the equally important work that they do in terms of preventing and tackling criminality, whether it's work around resettlement programs, youth schemes, jobs, housing, those sort of issues. If we're seeing such devastating cuts to local authorities, doesn't it fall on you to challenge the government on that, as well as on the reductions to police budgets?
Well, obviously, one of the things that we're doing is leading in trying to create a holistic approach to tackling these problems. And Operation Connect, which has been launched with particular success in Waltham Forest, is something that we think deserves to be spread around all London boroughs, and we're very, very keen to support that and see that deliver the kind of results. I think in Waltham Forest they've seen a 9% fall in gang-related activity thanks to Operation Connect. And what it basically it's a simple thing. You target the kids in particular who are most likely to be drawn into this kind of gang, and you bring all the agencies together that have responsibility for them. And so you create these multi-agency support hubs, or MASH, units that deal with each individual and deal with the problem families that are likely to give rise to gang members.
I agree with that, and I think that the Waltham Forest approach is very welcome, and we need more of that multi-agency working. But if all the agencies are being starved of funding and starved of resources, it makes it much more difficult. So what I'm calling on you've made some welcome comments calling on the government to rethink its cuts to policing. Are you also going to make some equally firm comments calling on the government to rethink its approach to local authority funding?
Well, obviously one of my jobs is to talk, in a spirit of frankness but firmness to the government about what I think London needs. And I certainly think that London needs to be properly policed, and we need to take a robust approach to gangs. As you know, the Home Office and the DWP under Ian Douglas-Smith have set up a gangs task force. They're looking at, I have no doubt, Darren, that they will be joining you and me in insisting that we need, as a society, we need the funding to deal with the issue around gangs in a way that is going to be effective, as we've seen in Waltham Forest. And one thing just to say parenthetically, obviously, is that gangs do not seem to have been perhaps as critical in the events of early August as you sometimes may have got the impression from the media. As I think the committee assembly will now be aware, gang-affiliated arrests, or arrests of people with any kind of gang affiliation, are only actually about 20%, and those under 18 at 21%. So sometimes the gang angle can be a bit overplayed.
Yeah, I mean,
that doesn't mean it's not vital to tackle gangs. I'm just making that point.
It's important to be aware of that. But you said yourself earlier that in terms of young people coming out of prison if they've been sentenced for involvement in the riots, that it doesn't just stop there. That we actually need the resettlement programs,
Yes.
and the jobs and the housing and so
Yes.
on. Otherwise, we just continue to sort out problems for ourselves. If the government isn't providing the money for local authorities to be able to do that work, how can we actually get that done?
Well, obviously, as I say, you've got to make the case to government for proper funding for London. I just think we've got to be a little bit cautious.
It's not. It's for the London boroughs as well as for you and the Metropolitan Police budget. And I think we've seen some welcome comments for you now. We've seen quite a change in position from you on the policing
I don't think you've seen any change in position.
Well, you've been much more robust in your criticism of the government. Previously, you said that the settlement was something that you can work with. Back in December 2010, February 2010, you told the Assembly it's not how much you spend, it's where you spend it and how wisely you spend your resources. Now, you're being very robust in your criticism of the government on the policing cuts. Quite rightly, I'm also inviting you to be equally robust in those damaging cuts to local authorities, which will prevent the important work that's needed.
Well, I mean, Darren, I think you need to make a distinction in your mind between the general budget settlements that local authorities get and the need to fight gangs in London with adequate resourcing. Because I'm afraid that the reality is that in a great many cases, local authority funding has not been well spent, and I'm afraid there has been a great deal of waste, and I'm not convinced that every single penny that has been spent on very highly remunerated officials over the last 10 years has been to the public good. And so, you know, just to ask for greater resources for local authorities, full stop, is not perhaps dealing with the problem. What I want to see is a proper recognition of the gang problem in London, and a proper understanding from government at all levels that this is a law and order problem that needs to be adequately financed.